Hello, Jordan.
What's up, Michael?
How you doing?
Dude, I'm good. How are your carbs?
They're really good.
What carb source did you just have?
White chocolate macadamia nut Cliff Bar. Not a sponsor. To go with my protein after my upper body lift.
I love that. You're a Cliff Bar guy. White chocolate macadamia nut guy. I like it.
I like the taste.
It's sterile. It's sterile and I like the taste, you know?
What's that from?
You don't know that movie? I guarantee you, there are only like a bunch of like dudes who are born in the 90s who are smiling, listening right now. It's sterile and I like the taste. You don't know what that's from?
Nope.
Oh my gosh. Man, it's from Dodgeball. Remember the movie Dodgeball?
I think I only saw half of it on TV at one point.
Stop. What
Is
the
that Ben
hell,
Stiller?
dude? Yeah, it's Ben Stiller. Are you serious? You saw half?
Sorry, Jordan. I'm sorry I let you down on Dodgeball.
Do you ever watch like the Billy Madison movie?
Billy Madison? Yeah, I watched Billy Madison.
What about Happy Gilmore?
Yeah. Was Adam Sandler in Dodgeball? I thought that was Ben Stiller.
No, I'm just throwing classics at you to make sure that you watch those.
I don't know.
Anchorman?
I don't know. Yep. I don't think that Dodgeball is in the same realm as any of the other three you just mentioned, but I haven't seen it.
Dodgeball is like a tier below, but it's still a classic. It's a classic from the era.
If we're going to go to like 1995, 1996, Braveheart pops out, Shawshank Redemption pops out.
It's
like
a different genre. That's a different like
I know. People have different preferences in movies.
Obviously, but you're talking about it's apples and oranges here, Michael. It's two different. Here's the thing. Like Will Ferrell is never going to win an Oscar, right?
I don't know. I'm not a movie buff to that level.
He's never going to win an Oscar, but like, I mean, we all agree that
Old School is legendary.
Old School,
yeah,
just legendary, classic movie. But it's never going to win an Oscar. But it's classic movie, right? It's just different genres.
You know what's wild?
What?
Ned Stark went his whole life without telling his wife. Like, he basically lied to his wife for his whole life on something that made him look really bad that he didn't actually do.
Yeah, to protect
Jon Snow.
To protect his stepson. Yeah, to protect his
nephew.
His nephew. Yeah, his nephew. But yeah, that is crazy. That is crazy. And like it really tarnished the relationship he had with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
For the betterment of the world.
Wow.
Right? That's really what it was. It wasn't like, and he didn't want to do it, but it was for the betterment of the world to the point where he was like, listen, this will hurt my life and her life, but the world will benefit because of this.
What an amazing thread to pull out of that. An unbelievable analysis that you just did right there. You have range from Dodgeball all the way to that. Because I didn't even consider that fact.
What do you? Yes, you did. That's why you brought it up. Of course.
No. I brought it up in the context of I wasn't thinking about the ripple effect of the decision he made and what Jon Snow went on to do. I was only thinking in the context of, basically keeping something like that from his wife for their entire life from that point forward. Yeah.
What you think? You were thinking that he did that just because his sister had asked him to keep that secret, and he was like, "I'm just going to be loyal to my sister," as opposed to what this could potentially mean. Like, because I think that the world was trying to kill the Targaryens, and so because that's why she wanted it to keep it a secret. Like, no one can know who he actually is because then he'll be killed.
Robert, who became king shortly after that, would have wanted him killed.
Right. Yeah. So it was one for loyalty to his sister, two to protect him, but also, do you think he had the foresight to know that like they're only a Targaryen to be able to create this change in the future?
No, I don't know that he had. I don't think it was that level of foresight.
It was more loyalty to his sister then.
Loyalty to his sister, and perhaps even like a small level of distrust in his wife's ability to keep a secret like that, perhaps. I don't know, almost protecting her from having to maintain that secret.
Yeah, like
not distrust is the wrong word. It's more just like knowing what she would have to go through.
Yeah.
With that.
If she knew it would put her at risk type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just the positions that it would put her in. Yeah. Wild though. I was just thinking about that during my lift. All right. Where are we taking this? You
were got
on
that grin again.
No, it's not. This is, so as well as I feel like I know you, I had a real aha moment yesterday.
Yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. What did I do yesterday?
Saved it for the pod.
Did we even talk? Yeah. Oh yeah, we spoke yesterday.
In that Mike Matthews podcast you did, and you were like, you got to listen to this. There's a bunch of conversation here you're really going to enjoy. So you spoke about in recent years becoming acutely aware of your own mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And I took for granted that everyone was aware of their own mortality just because N equals 1, thinking of myself from a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
And hadn't considered the fact that like light bulb. Wow.
You Storm in Texas. In the background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hadn't considered the fact that it was not until a later age that became on your radar more prevalent to your life. I found it interesting.
It's not that I didn't logically know that it was going to happen, right? I think it's just especially when I was younger, I'll never forget this. I took a shop class in 7th grade or 8th grade. I think the teacher's name was Mr. Jarmalowitz. And I remember one Friday, it must have been before the weekend, he was telling everyone, like, just like be careful. And he said something. This is one of those random things that someone says when you're a kid that you don't know why you remember, but I always remember it, where he was just like, kids your age, you think you're invincible. You think nothing bad can happen to you. And then, you know, at some point in your life, someone close to you will die from like a car accident or something. And that's really gonna impact you as you get older. And you're going to come to face with your own mortality type thing. It's what the gist of what he said. And then one of my friends, he died from a car accident at like 18 or 19. And like, then that speech that Mr. Jarmalowitz had given to us like came rushing back, and that was the first time that I think I really came face to face with mortality and like, oh, this could happen at any time. But then as more things happen, it becomes more and more of a reality, especially like learning more about blood pressure, learning more about cancer, learning more about, and having more and more people as you get older die. It's like, oh my gosh, like this is going to happen. And it's not only is it going to happen, it could happen way before you think it's going to, with zero notice. And that to me is like, that's really where it hit me. And I think when you're younger, you tend to just, or at least for me, my experience is like, I just assume I'll just get really old and die one day when I'm really old. Whereas like, it might not happen that way. You could die very young and there might not be anything you can do about it. It's, so that's what I think the older I've gotten, the more I've realized the cliche idiom, like tomorrow's not promised. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And when you're younger, you just assume I have all this time and I'm not going to, even if I assume that I might tip over at 85, I'm only 11. So I'm not going to worry about that because it's so far off into the future.
Yeah. When you're 11, you look at 16-year-olds, you're like, they're old, or like, you know,
dude, I remember being, I don't know, somewhere in the 3rd to 5th grade range and being afraid of dying when I was 90.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Which I think is just like, I can sit and look out an airplane window for 45 minutes and think about life with no stimulation, whereas you're much more engaging with your environment at all times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something about being able to contemplate versus, but it It was just an interesting aha moment.
All right. I like that.
How do you feel like, because I have an opinion on this about you, how do you feel like the last few years, we'll call it getting married, settling down, having your daughter, having a dog, having your daughter on the child on the way?
Yeah, we got it on. Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, oh.
oh, thank goodness we're not live. What I view as taking on more and more responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
How has that changed you / I don't know, your outlook on life or your day to day? How has that changed you over the last few years?
Let's see. I think I have less patience for, I don't think less patience is the right word. I think I have less of a focus on shit that doesn't matter. There's just like so much less of even a desire to engage in conversation around things that are just like, why bother? Like, why is this gossip or whatever it is? Like anything that doesn't bring me joy or value what's right in front of me, the important things. It's like the gossiping, the complaining, the whining. It's just like there's so much
arguing. Would you put arguing in that category?
Yeah, arguing is another one too, where it's just like, what's the point? Like, let me work my way to the end of this argument, even if I get to the end of this argument and get my way, what will I have lost by taking the time and energy to have this argument type of a thing? Mm-hmm. It's a good example of last night. Like I was I've been getting crazy messages with everything going on with Israel, Gaza, like really like intense messages. And I try and communicate with people who might disagree, for a number of reasons, not least of which I think it's part of my role is to try and have these conversations and to try and bring people together. But this one woman,
if they're willing to engage in good faith,
they have to, or else like it won't go anywhere. And last night, this woman was just not willing to at all. And I realized that, and the conversation came to a point where she was, I basically said, listen, I don't think any innocent Palestinian or any innocent Israeli should be killed. I was like, both of the innocent Israelis and innocent Palestinians, their lives are equal in importance. None is better than the other. I don't want any of them to die. I was like, can you say the same? And she couldn't. And she just kept bringing up other arguments. I was like, listen, just out of everything, before we move on, can you say that you don't want innocent Israelis to die in the same way you don't want innocent Palestinians to die? And she couldn't do it. And I said, well, listen, here's the deal. It looks like we're not going to be able to come to an agreement. I'm going to go and spend the rest of the night with my wife. I wish you and your family health and happiness. And that's how I left it. Whereas before, I would have went off the fucking handle. I've been like, you can't even fucking say that. Like, it really would have. And to be honest, it still doesn't feel good, but it made me feel better that I could call it, end it, and then spend the rest of the evening with my wife, as opposed to being online debating this woman who wasn't going to change her mind anyway. Yeah,
go to battle for a few more hours, screenshots, post a story, like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's just one example, but I think it's just much more of a focus on enjoying the little things. The other thing about coming to terms with, and this brings back to coming to terms with your own mortality, is I think a lot about, why do I want to live a long time? Like why? What's the reason for that? When I look back on my life, if God willing, and I'm blessed enough to live a very long life, what will I think back on? And it will be the little moments throughout every day that are like having dinner with my family, going out and playing outside, kicking the soccer ball around with them, like the little things. Because I think now on my childhood, and I think back fondly on whichever memories I have, and it's usually just like these little innocuous moments of laughter or joy or whatever it is. And those are, in my head, the good old days, right? The quote unquote, the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
So as I get older, I would imagine that would be the same thing. Well, what is the good old days? Grilling outside with the family, having dinner, kicking the soccer ball around, watching movie. Like that's so literally doing what I'm doing right now, or even in this moment, there will be a day in my life, God willing, where I look back and say, man, when Mike and I were doing weekly podcasts, those were the good old days. It was like enjoying this moment right now, because this is something that one day I'll likely miss. And so that, I think it's given me that perspective to know it's like enjoying whichever moment you're in, because one day you're going to look back and say that moment was a wonderful moment, but I didn't recognize it for that.
Yeah. Well said. Good answer. The angle I was coming from, and that all makes sense, was...
I answered it wrong.
No, you didn't. You answered it perfectly. When I say the angle I was coming from, my opinion on changes that I've seen, because there are many changes, was more of, even if every moment of life isn't like you talked about the little enjoyable moments, even if every single moment isn't that, because there's stress, because the dog poops on the floor, because your daughter's screaming and crying for whatever reason, because all of these things, engaging in those moments is better than, even if it's not pleasurable, engaging in those moments is objectively better than some other behavior that you or I could have been taking prior to being in that situation. Whether it's like, extra time on a video game, whether it's, binge scrolling, whether it's, any hedonistic, or like we'll call it overly hedonistic activity, even though that would probably be more quote unquote fun in the moment, is actually net worse if you're adding up, if you're trying to maybe quantify what a good life is.
Yeah, completely agree. It's a good way to look at it. Like, even if you're not necessarily ultimate enjoying that moment, is still better than what you could be doing otherwise. Yeah, it's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. Could or would. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we dive into some questions? I don't have a ton prepared.
Okay. Yeah. Want me to open up my Q&A?
Let's open it up. Let's see what's in there.
Hope you're doing well, David.
David.
We appreciate all your hard work.
We do indeed.
Let's see what we got, Michael.
You never watched the show Mad Men, did you?
No. I thought that it would not be good for me. I really want to, but I haven't.
There's a scene where the lead guy, Don Draper, kind of later in the show, the girl who used to be his assistant, Peggy, who then became like, it's been a while since I watched it, so I might butcher some of the background, but basically at this time, I think it was in the 60s, 50s, 60s, women weren't really in these marketing roles. They were in administrative roles around the office, but she got a marketing role, and then she was coming up with ideas. And basically she'd been in this role for 2 years, in this marketing role. And she came into his office one night and was, kind of crying or like very upset, saying that she provides him with ideas and he never says thank you. And he's just screaming at her. He's like, that's what the money is for. You give me ideas, I give you money, so I don't have to say thank you. And it was, not with the rage that he said it, but it was a mentality that 10 years ago I really could have related to, and something that, maybe Dale Carnegie, Chris Voss. By the way, you might be saying Dale Carnegie wrong. I think it's Carnegie.
Oh, I saw that. So
yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure
Carnegie.
I'm saying it right. I know
Either
someone
way.
is listening to this podcast. I saw the comment of him being like, you're saying it wrong. I'm almost positive I'm saying it right. I'll look it up.
I was super confident in Hermione too, so we all, but when you just said thank you, David, here to our audio engineer, that crossed
Oh,
my
yeah,
mind.
yeah.
Like, yeah, it's still good to treat people well and to be appreciative and
Yeah, man.
compliment good work, which he always does. But that scene is funny.
That actually sounds amazing. Yeah, I really want to watch that show. I think I should be able to watch it.
Yeah, look, and we could even go in on this because it's funny. You and I have talked in the past about, at least with me, the imitation of protagonist figures in fiction being like influence in our lives, which we all know. That's why high level propaganda has come through media and entertainment for decades and decades, centuries. But that's why I intentionally like to pick a Harry Potter or a Jon Snow or a Maximus Decimus Meridius or a William Wallace. And I like to watch these frequently because they model good behavior.
Yes.
And Don Draper is a protagonist that you don't really want to model.
Not want to model. Yeah, exactly. You do not want that influence on your life.
Yeah.
I mean, even we were just talking about before we hopped on, there are some people who are just posting stuff on social media that are just like clearly being influenced in their lives by the wrong people. And like, we've known these people before they were influenced by these other people. And it's crazy to see their behavior and what they value change just based on who they're hanging out with.
Yeah. The average of the 5 people you spend the most time with is, I'm going to stop saying like, oh, it's a cliche. I know it's a cliche. It's a cliche for a reason. All cliches are cliches for a reason because they're
it's true.
Yeah. They're very
accurate,
true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's so if you can be intentional with who you're spending time with, it'll be good for you. Or if you're unintentional, it could be really bad for you.
All right, here's an interesting one. Maybe it's not interesting. We'll see what you think. The questions are not the most riveting today, but we'll see. This person said, basically, they're asking, do I use a powerlifting belt? What is the purpose of them? Do you use a belt, Michael? Have you ever used a belt? Do your clients use a belt? What do you think about them?
Do I use a belt? No, I do not use a belt right now. I'm not doing any squatting or deadlift. I'm not doing any barbell back squatting or barbell deadlifting right now, which would be the only 2 moves I can think of that I have regularly done in the past. Did you say curls?
Yeah, wear a belt with curls.
Yeah,
and lat pull down.
Well, curls, it just looks cool, right? It just looks like awesome. So you gotta high rep dumbbell curls. Need that extra intra-abdominal pressure. Do my clients use a belt? A very small percentage of them who are more advanced in their training and have high level strength goals around heavy compound movements. And even those clients are only using a belt on their heaviest working sets, right? I like the abdominal recruitment and the core strength benefits that come from training with a belt on warm-up sets and even like, later warm-up sets that are a little heavy, more like a feeler set. What were the other questions? General thoughts on belts?
Yeah. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of it? Like, who is it best used for?
Best used for somebody who is trying to get strong on a heavy compound movement to add more stability to the core. Like a little bit. Actually, I don't even know I don't know what the science says on injury reduction, but definitely more stability and the ability to get stronger.
Yeah, I completely agree with literally everything. I think you said it perfectly. I think the really only time I would have someone wear a belt is if their main goal is to get maximally stronger in squats and deadlifts. That's literally it. Like, and if their goal wasn't if like powerlifting, Olympic lifting, or they just want to get as strong as they possibly can, then with those two movements, that's when I would do it. And like you said, I would not do it during warm-up sets. I would save it for once you hit about like 80% of your working weight for that day, then you can start putting the belt on. But all your warm-up sets should be beltless. And then, it's funny. I think earlier on in my career, I would have said, if your back is not feeling great, then put a belt on. Now I'm at a point where I'd probably say, if your back isn't feeling great, we should probably address why it's not feeling great and improve that before we start loading heavy enough to where you might need to wear a belt. So I really think that the only people who should be wearing a belt are the people who are pain-free and trying to lift as heavy as they possibly can with squats and deadlifts. That's really it. I used to wear belts all the time as a competitive powerlifter. I haven't worn a belt since competitively powerlifting. And because my goal is not to be as strong as I possibly can in squats and deadlifts. That's it. So if that's your goal, that's when you do it. If not, then you don't wear it.
Are there any other exercises where a belt would be reasonable? Barbell overhead press?
There's a case to be made for a barbell overhead press. There's a case to be made for it. I'm not going to say definitively no, but the two most important ones are squats and deadlifts, for sure. Those are the two most important if your goal is maximal strength in those two lifts. I would prefer not with a barbell overhead press. I would say if you are going to do a barbell overhead press and wear a belt, I would say the people who it really makes the most sense for are strongman competitors. You'll often see them wearing a type of belt, and they have different types of belts, but you'll often see them wearing some sort of a brace or support when they're doing log presses or overhead presses or something. They do a lot of awkward lifts. I think strongman competitors are just so fucking awesome. They do all these like insanely awkward lifts, and they're so freaking strong. It's really incredible. I think strongman is so unique because so much of powerlifting and Olympic lifting is based around perfect technique, right? Like not rounding your back, staying in optimal position. And really Olympic lifting needs to be, because it's speed based. Like that technique is just necessary. You can't grind through an Olympic lift. You can't grind through a snatch. You can grind through a deadlift or a squat and even a bench press. It's a little bit more difficult with a bench, but you can. So, technique is most important in Olympic lifting, a little bit less important in powerlifting, but still super important. And with strongman, they sort of just say like, we're going to take your technique and we're going to lift this like 300-pound stone with a completely rounded back and be way stronger than you. And also our conditioning is going to be really good. And we're going to be doing insane farmer's carries. And we're going to be doing things in positions that you couldn't even imagine putting yourself in with insanely heavy loads. And our grip strength is better than yours. And we're offset loading things, and we're doing these medleys, and they sort of just shove right in your face that this perfect technique paradigm is often a joke once you reach a higher level of performance. For beginners, I think it makes total sense. Even intermediate, I think it makes total sense. But once you reach a high intermediate to advanced level, I think you have to learn the rules. But after a certain point, you become advanced enough, then you can start to break the rules. And strongman teaches you how to break the rules and show you that you can bend and twist and round and lift. And man, I am totally fine with my height, but one thing that really sucks about being short is it makes competing in strongman incredibly difficult. And if I was taller, I would definitely have done that because it's just super badass.
Let me ask you something. This could be a function of me not knowing enough about strongman, because I agree with what you just said. And I like those different types of movements for the reasons you mentioned. I associate strongmen being fat. And is the reason for that because all of the highest level strongmen, like by definition, need to carry a higher amount of body fat to be elite at strongman? And is there like a lower level strongman competition where people have healthy body compositions, where they're doing these same movements, but maybe not to the same level, not the same advanced level, who are leaner and healthier? or
I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd imagine that the majority of your imagery of strongmen is maybe like 10 years old.
maybe. So here are the two images. Yeah, like 10 to 15 years old, Pujanowski and whoever else was on ESPN when they were broadcasting all the time. So that's like primary number one. And number two would be anytime Elliot Hulse was in like a strong, because he's done a lot of strongman training.
Yep.
Anytime he was trying to be as strong as possible, where he would simultaneously be at his highest body fat percentage.
Yep. So there are obviously, just like with powerlifters and even Olympic lifters, there are some that are much higher body fat, like we'll say fat. In the same way that powerlifting has really gone more towards like a lean, generally a more like a leaner physique over the last 10 years, strongman has as well. And you'll look at strongman, even high level strongman, but especially the lower levels as well, like very lean.
Really? Natty?
Yeah.
Not natty.
No,
okay.
Not natty. No,
Okay.
no. The higher, no, and definitely not the highest levels. At the highest levels, they're juiced to the gills.
Correct.
But like, and to be fair, there is a benefit to having a little bit more body fat, but I wouldn't say being fat. I would just say like being super athletic and strong, but still having a little bit body fat in order to put these things on you, to load different objects on top of you without it digging into you as much, giving you a little bit more leverage. But yeah, I mean, at the highest levels, they're juiced to the gills. But at lower levels, if they are natural, it's definitely a little bit more difficult. But overall, it's become more of a, you can be super strong and very lean for sure.
It's almost like participating in strongman style training without trying to be an elite strongman / strongwoman is probably the ultimate pathway if health is one of your top priorities, which it should be.
That's exactly right. 100%.
Cool.
Yep.
Weekly uploads every Tuesday. We don't miss a Tuesday. We're on a hot streak. These are free. We don't have advertisers. We don't have sponsors. We're not shoving AG1 or some BS. What's that? Electrolyte powder down your throat. Buy your electrolyte powder.
Yeah.
No, none of
LMNT.
that. We're for the people, of the people, by the people, how to become a personal trainer. Hit the like button, subscribe. Please leave us a 5-star review. Tell your friends and family. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, everywhere you get your podcast. We love you. Have a great week. Don't forget to train. Get your steps in. See you soon.
Just FYI, the reason this episode's so short is because we got to hop on a mentorship call right now. Because every week we do a live Q&A with the mentorship. So
True.
Cutting this short, make sure we're on time with the mentorship. If you want to join the mentorship, click the link in the show notes. If not, well,
keep listening.
We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.